The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey, Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck. You may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premier podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host. He's currently under me, which is not how I wanted to do this. I wanted... there you go. Now we're both on top of Alexis. That's where I wanted to be. Ladies. Hi,
just
sweetie.
for that, Mark, no candy for you.
It's good. Ladies and gentlemen.
Like, here, I'll throw a piece to Robert. I'm not going to throw. Robert, ready?
The host of these proceedings, Robert Winfree. Yay!
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Mr. Dr. Nick. Mr. Doctor.
You could have gone with Mr. Sir, and that would have been a better reference.
You want me to start all over again?
Nah, we're good.
Okay.
No,
I will. I'll go and hit that button. I will hit that button for you.
I know you will. Don't do it. No,
Alrighty.
It doesn't matter that much. Well, everyone, tonight, Mark, he's over there, myself, and Alexis Hejna, who you've heard already.
She's down there.
Like I said, I get chocolate and you don't.
Okay.
You get a lot of things that Mark doesn't at the moment. It's okay. I walked right into the purr, and I'm kind of mad at myself.
You really did.
Yeah, I thought that was so obvious. Man.
I don't know why you wandered into the alley, but I'm Joe Chill, pal.
Yeah, you are. Well, tonight, everybody, we're discussing
Wonka.
So how do you want us? Dark, light, nutty, absolutely insane?
Before I read the wiki and we get into this, can I tell you that we were decorating that my children and I were decorating the Christmas tree, and they said father. They called me father. They pitched. We were talking about the Rachel Zegler Snow White because my daughter had questions about it.
Did you tell her it's terrible?
We got into a thing about how they changed the dwarves from the 7 diverse friends to the 7 dwarves, and now they're CGI dwarves of various colors.
There was so much pushback on their stupid decision that they delayed the movie a year and are desperately flogging VFX artists.
I would say we're getting another comeback of what happened with the poor animators of Sonic the Hedgehog.
So my far left liberal tree hugging hippie commie 12-year-old, almost 13-year-old feminist daughter goes, why didn't they just hire real midgets for this? They're like 7 midgets. And then she's like, I'm hearing her and I hear the drinker. She's like, there were 7 midgets could have had these jobs and they were denied. I, of course, pitched a artificial intelligence deep fake to Peter Dinklage 7 times, but no one listens to Pete.
Of course you did.
Yeah, I'm going to ruin Hollywood. Anyway, my point being...
They're ruining it themselves. You really don't have to help.
I was going to say, we have, unfortunately, 2 groups of dwarven actors, those who want the roles and those like Peter Dinklage, who basically says, why the hell is it still the 7 dwarves?
So for the audience who was
dwarves, you douchebag.
So for the audience that's desperately wanting us to get on with this so I can tell the point of the story. So this led to them pitching me a discussion. I don't know how I'm going to skip the middle part here so I can get to the end, because at the end of this story, both my children were very vividly and creatively pitching a Nazi version of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, where Snow White is played by a 6-foot Amazonian Elsa the she-wolf, and all the dwarfs are little Nazis. Nazi midgets. My children, Wu-Tang, my children pitched Ilsa the She-Wolf as Snow White and 7 midget Nazis. I've never been prouder. With that said, Robert, you have a 30-second reaction.
I desperately hope.
Want to see this movie? Me too.
Hang on. I desperately hope and pray for the future of all parties involved that at some point one of them will do something that makes you prouder than that.
It's a 50-50.
But
Anyway.
I was going to say, but I'm not sure where I'd lay money.
Alrighty. Wonka, for those of you patiently waiting us for get the hell on with this, is a 2023 musical fantasy film directed by Paul King, who co-wrote the screenplay with Simon Farnaby. Based on a story by King, it tells the origin story of Willy Wonka, a character in the 1964 novel Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. Featuring his early days as a chocolatier, the film stars Timothée Chalamet in the title role and an ensemble cast including Calah Lane, Keegan-Michael Key, Paterson Joseph, Matt Lucas, Mathew Baynton, Sally Hawkins, Rowan Atkinson, Jim Carter, Natasha Rothwell, Tom Davis, Olivia Colman, and Hugh Grant.
Makes everything worse.
Who unfortunately is not playing his character from The Gentleman, to my eternal depression. It is the third live-action adaptation of Dahl's book, following Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in 1971 and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Hollywood's greatest monster, Tim Burton, and a life mate, Johnny Depp. All right.
Third greatest monster on the acting front, Johnny Depp.
So, Alexis, you have the book like practically memorized. You were telling me off camera about your experience with this IP, the book. Why do you love it so? All the time.
Roald Dahl has always been my favorite author when I was a child. Growing up, I must have reread Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Witches, and James and the Giant Peach more times than I can feasibly count. I absolutely loved it. I would read it over and over and over again. I never got sick of it. I loved it, which is admittedly, God forgive me for this, I actually prefer the Tim Burton movie solely because it is more loyal to the book.
I'm so close to putting you out of the box just for laughs.
Hang on. So, for the record, when we talked about The Witches, the most recent one, we reviewed it, 2 years ago-ish?
I can't remember if it came out in the heart of the pandemic or right after the pandemic.
No. Stop. Didn't you and I just do that one, Alexis? I thought it was just me and you who did The Witches.
I thought it was too.
Or I know me and you did the Craft sequel, and that was like during the day. And yes, this was.
Yeah, and that took like 30 minutes because it sucked.
Look, man, I know I watched it and I know I reviewed it. That's all I know.
Fair.
I'm sorry, Robert, but sometimes I wonder if you just have dreams where you've watched a horrible movie and you're sitting here, because I feel like this is just your reoccurring nightmares.
It's entirely possible that you were there. I'm going to look now, but what's your point?
My point is, we talked about we did a brief compare and contrast between the current iteration of The Witches, the one with Chris Rock voicing the little mouse at the end, and the original, which has Angelica Houston as the head witch.
And is full of some bona fide nightmare fuel.
It is. And that movie is a much more faithful adaptation to the book apart from the ending. And we went over that. I bring that up to say that I understand people going, no, the Tim Burton one is closer to the book, but I genuinely would argue that the Gene Wilder version is closer in spirit and in tone to what Dahl was doing. And I know Dahl didn't care for it. And I understand his complaints. I think my objection, my counterpoint to his position would be, you couldn't make what he wrote, certainly not in that year.
We're talking 1971?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
by the way, you were on The Witches, so apologies.
I understand I'm forgettable. It's okay.
Stop.
Well,
you is kind, you is smart, you is beautiful. Now please get the fuck on with this. We got people watching.
This one. So again, between those two, like there's occasionally, especially with someone like Dahl, when you're adapting his work, trying to stick to the spirit of what he wrote versus trying to adapt more literally what he wrote, and that's a really difficult balance to strike. And it's become, and the two Wonka movies, the second which has never, the two Wonka books, the second of which has never been made into a movie to the best of my recollection. And that's, for some reason, that one in particular is the hardest line to walk, because the James and the Giant Peach movie is genuinely great. Matilda didn't have any problems. Like, that's a movie that is genuinely in tune with everything with the story that it's based on.
The musical did a really good job with that as well.
Yeah. But for some reason, this particular story, that needle is really hard to thread, and we see that again here.
For our audience and for my sake, in 50 words or less, Robert and then Alexis. What about the book is so difficult? Specifically, what about the book is so difficult to translate into a major motion picture that you're saying both iterations missed the ball?
It's a really difficult amount of whimsy to pull off. There's a lot that is left to the imagination, and consequently, everyone fills it in differently.
Is this a Kobayashi Maru thing in the first Chris Pine Star Trek that we talked about, where you're meant to imagine what this is, and the minute somebody tries to put it to film, it robs it of its power?
A little bit.
Okay.
Not exactly, but a little bit.
Okay.
Honestly, and feel free to kill me for this, but absent the magic of childhood, there's big stretches of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory that they follow dream logic, not like actual logic, which is part of the charm, but it's also a little bit difficult to follow. Like, so for example, the Gene Wilder version is fairly well contained, the narrative to the factory and what is reasonably within it. In the book, you understand that everything's underground, and it's this like multiple miles long complex where he does all of his crazy. There's a bunch, like all these different rooms, every different kind of thing. Like,
the great glass elevator. Talk about how it can go up and down and diagonal in any direction that you want, and you see buttons on all the walls, on the floor, on the ceiling, and it's like you have to assume how many floors could possibly hold all of those rooms.
Yeah, it's not to make a reference to a currently tragic television show, but it's bigger on the inside. And
please don't scare off our audience, Robert.
So,
the very fact that I didn't make a sexual pun there, like I was trying to be good. Go ahead.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it's just kind of, and it's a lot of the stuff that is in the book is just kind of weird puns. Not all of it, but like my favorite candy from the Wonka factory, they've never actually shown in any of the adaptations, but it's the round candies, which are square.
What?
The round candies. Okay, the gag is they look through a mirror into this room, through a window into this room, and there are these square candies. And Wonka goes, "Oh, those are my round candies." And one of the kids, it's not Charlie, one of the other ones goes, "What in the world are you talking about? They're clearly square." Wonka goes, "No, they're round. They're my round candies." And they go back and forth for a little bit. Then they open the door, goes in, and every one of the candies turns, and you can see the eyes that are on the other side. And Wonka goes, wherever you go, they look around whenever you come in the room. They're my round candies.
Around candies.
Yeah.
Right,
it's a stupid word pun, but it's kind of funny. There's a lot of that.
Again, I genuinely do not remember.
Let me go over to Alexis. Alexis, you've read the book.
I might be misremembering. I haven't read it in a long time, but I do remember. So again, feel free to reread. See if I'm wrong. I might be.
You've read the book. You're a big fan of it. What's your thoughts on the success of the translations to major motion picture from the book?
One of the things that's made the Gene Wilder one more successful, I think, is also because they gave Roald Dahl tends to write his books very much like a modern fairy tale. And in doing so, a lot of his characters do not really have the biggest depth of character. They're meant to be ones that we can kind of project ourselves into. Again, he's writing books for younger kids, and that's the appeal of it, so no harm there. But when you look at the Gene Wilder story, especially Charlie, they really developed up his character and made him much more three-dimensional. In the book, Charlie is just a good kid. He doesn't really have any real traits other than, he's a good kid. He loves his family. He loves chocolate. Any kid could fit into that circumstance. We want to root for him because he's the underdog, but we don't really know that much about him. Very similar with the other kids who go in there. They're just kind of characteristics, tropes, and we know them by their vices. We don't really know that much about them. We just know that Augustus Gloop loves to eat, Veruca Salt is greedy, Violet Beauregard is a brat, Mike TV is, originally a TV addict, then he's just I don't really know how to define actually the Mike TV in the Tim Burton one. I don't know exactly.
He's an internet troll, basically.
Essentially,
So are you with Robert?
His superpower is autism. We border on that.
Yay, Predator. Would you agree or disagree with Robert's contention that they struggle to adapt the book in the Tim Burton and the Gene Wilder one?
I don't think they've again, they took a lot of liberties with the Gene Wilder one to develop these characters more. Not to mention, there's a lot of elements of the book that you just really can't make. Again, we have that whole scene with the great glass elevator where they go past tons of different rooms and Dahl explains what's going on. Not like huge, there's like a paragraph each of what's going on in every room. And obviously no filmmaker's going to have time to, send that out to the visual effects department.
We've talked about that with Lord of the Rings. There's just some stuff that's not going to make the movie.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson truncated a bunch of stuff. He gave stuff to other characters. He left whole parts out of it. There's entire bits of the end of Return of the King that don't make the movie. They're alluded to in dream sequences or possible versions of a future, and it's only a few seconds of it. But
again, even Willy Wonka doesn't have that much of a character. Right. He moves the plot along and he gives the exposition, but he's not really a character in his own story.
All right, let me jump in here as we move to the plot synopsis. I just want to talk about first of all, I've never read the book, Books of a Burden, but I've seen the Gene Wilder one a bunch, and I've seen the Tim Burton one at least once, and like a lot of Tim Burton's movies, I fucking hated it. The Gene Wilder...
I think my objection, to your point, that movie is way too much Tim Burton, not enough Roald Dahl.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. The first thing I wanted to say about the Gene Wilder one, I like Willy Wonka. It's not one of my favorites. It's not one that I watch a lot. I've watched it with my kids because I show them classic movies, and you can't not show them Willy Wonka, especially when they're young. Also, I really dig the fact that Marilyn Manson cops the boat scene for the beginning of Portrait of an American Family. It's great. I let my kids listen to that and a few minutes of cake and sodomy because parenting. Anyway, but they've heard worse. Anyway,
I know you let them listen to the Wu-Tang Clan.
Wu-Tang, motherfucker. About the Gene Wilder one, not my favorite movie of all time, but it has enough whimsy and earnest that I can enjoy it when I'm forced to watch it. And I can appreciate the fact that it appeals to a lot of people. For me, like I said, I can appreciate the craft and I can appreciate the themes of it, and more the themes than anything else, because it's a moralist tale, which I like. But it's one of those where, if given a choice between like that or The Wizard of Oz or some of the other classic movies from that time, I would rather watch The Wizard of Oz. Much more appealing.
But you really should be showing your kids his Return to Oz as soon as possible.
Ugh.
And then getting the money put aside for the future therapy bills.
I ate the limestone. The Tim Burton one, to conclude, is everything I hate about modern remakes, where, and I talked about this with Dorian when we were discussing Sleepy Hollow. A lot of times stuff gets remade or stuff gets adapted, and the person doing the adaptation or the remake doesn't know why the IP was popular in the first place. There's not a lot of intellectual reading of the IP. This was popular with kids. I liked it. So I'm going to make a movie focusing on the things that I like because I assume everyone liked them too. And what you end up getting many times is a shallow and vapid product that misses the point of the original intellectual property. Go ahead.
If you want strike 3 on Tim Burton's resume as it pertains to vapid, shallow, pointless remakes, he did that god-awful Mark Wahlberg Planet of the Apes movie.
Oh yeah, that was one of the early on trials. Sean and I fucking tore that to pieces. I said I've described on the on trial for Sleepy Hollow in the discussion with Dorian, and we had like a good debate about it. And Dorian made a lot of good points about Tim Burton. I mean, his final thing was essentially if Tim Burton inspires people to go out there and make movies because he's so fucking off the wall, then the world is better for it. Which I accept that as a premise. Unfortunately, Tim Burton, the guy, I have a problem with because I think Tim Burton's an idiot. I think he's a visual creative genius. I think he's a guy who like takes all your favorite art supplies and he throws them up on a canvas and he makes something very pretty to look at, very interesting to look at, something with a lot of visual depth. But when you ask him, well, what does this mean? He's like, colors. I made it pretty. And like, ugh, all right. Tim Burton doesn't make a thinking man's movie, and if you're not after a thinking man's movie, then you're not gonna see my side of the argument, and you're gonna appreciate a lot of what he does, which people do, or he wouldn't have made as many movies as he has. That's my major problem with the Johnny Depp one. Is it's everything about him just watching the Gene Wilder one and going, I like that, I could do more of that, and also Johnny Depp doing what Johnny Depp does in the second half of his entire movie career, which is act weird, like
well, man, you and I talked like 2 weeks ago about how poor Joaquin Phoenix had no handle on Napoleon.
Yeah,
Johnny Depp had no handle on Willy Wonka.
No, but that's a lot of the Tim Burton stuff with Johnny Depp. A lot of their partnership, collaborations is Tim Burton doesn't understand why things work the way that they do. He just knows what he likes and he does a lot of it. And then he doesn't. And then I think he's another like George Lucas, where it's it's a Hitchcockian. I'm about the visual. I'm not about the performance. The performance will take care of itself. So there's Johnny Depp, like a toddler, running around on set doing weird shit because that's what he thinks is good acting. So two idiot toddlers with a $200 million budget making nonsense. Tim Burton and Johnny Depp, everybody. I can't describe it any better than that. Which is why, and I'm gonna give away my opinion of this movie. This is my favorite interpretation of this IP yet. I fucking love this movie. Robert?
Okay. So, we open with Willy Wonka as he arrives at City.
It's meant, again, this movie, very much so like Roald Dahl stories, is very like a fairy tale. We have no idea where the city is, or
how it operates economically, because both me and my son walking. By the way, I have to say this right now, and you have to let me say it because I'm going to start kicking people off the show if you don't let me get through this statement. My daughter gets up and she goes, I love this movie. It was great. It made me laugh. It made me cry. It made me feel young, like when the world was new. And my son goes, I have several problems with the plot. I have issues with the movie craft. I don't understand how this world works. And in a moment that gave me post-traumatic stress disorder, where I didn't see my children anymore, I saw sort of a trans gender combination of Ronnie and Alexis talking to my son, who grows up to become Robert Winfree. And Lily goes, why can't you just let me enjoy things? And Jonas goes, I don't give a shit what you enjoy. It sucked, and here's why. And I went to another universe.
Mark, time is a flat circle.
We're convinced Lily is actually Ronnie and Alexis's daughter, and Jonas is your son.
Jonas is yours. He is completely yours. You made the mistake of exposing him to me on podcast when my affect, when my logic could seep into his brain as it was still molding, and now you have a problem.
Yeah, he's smarter than most people I know, including the people that live in this house. Anyway, I couldn't. I was dying.
Yeah, just don't try to explain to him things that he can look up on the internet and he already knows.
Just because he puts you in your place, ma'am, don't you talk bad about my son.
No, just the way that he kind of snapped at me and Andrew about the virtual boy. I was like, whoa.
My daughter and I were cheering as I'm driving her home. Anyway, the only reason why I brought that up now was I had to then explain to them. I was like, you can both enjoy things and know why there's problems with them. These two things don't exist. These are not mutually exclusive. Parenting. Go ahead.
So Willy Wonka arrives at the city, and he's just got his last paycheck from being the cook on this boat. And he rapidly discovers that commerce is not cheap. And in the space of a single song, he's broke.
Yep.
Well, that's what happens when you let a little shoeshine boy follow you around.
And try to sell you cologne.
Yeah, you got to get the plot synopsis done in a hurry here. Let's go.
So he is then found by a menacing individual and his dog, because his dog likes to chase mailmen, and Willy Wonka got his pants from a Russian mailman.
It's a weird detail, by the way.
But it's an important plot point.
Is it?
Yeah.
Sort of.
I disagree, but keep going.
So this nefarious individual says to him, look, man, I can't let you stay out here and freeze to death. As his hot chocolate freezes into a creamsicle. And Willy Wonka goes, well, okay, you seem like a nice fellow. So he takes him to a laundromat. And the proprietor there says, sure, we can put you up for the night. It's going to cost you. He goes, I don't have any money. He's like, you can pay me tomorrow at the end of the day and we'll be good. By the way, sign this very elaborate contract. And a small girl tells him, please read the fine print. And everyone goes, shut up! We're all executives here. We know what we're doing. And Wonka signs.
To which he would later realize the importance of etc., etc., etc.
Yes, he would. And he's put up for the night. The next day, he goes to the Square of Chocolate.
The Gallery Gourmet.
And Homer Simpson frolics by with the chocolate bunnies. Had to get the land of chocolate out there once. Just once.
And you wasted it on that. I'm disappointed in you, Robert.
He starts selling his magical chocolate. And the other chocolatiers come out and berate him for his shoddiness and his overly complicated, self-indulgent flavor profiles.
Because apparently good chocolate is supposed to be plain and boring.
Yes, the movie was sponsored by Hershey. Keep going.
And then they all start flying because magic.
Hover chocks.
And the police show up and tell him, look, man, you don't have a permit for panhandling. You're out here just selling stuff on the street, and we don't appreciate your knockoff DVDs. People work hard on the movies.
Yep.
So we're going to confiscate how much money you made.
We are going to take all your profits, and you have to go somewhere else. And he goes, well, continuing his vagrancy and panhandling, can I at least get one? Can I get one sovereign to pay off my room? And the cop goes, sure, here you go. And he goes back and he goes to pay off his debt, only to discover he's incurred, what was it, 10 grand?
Yes, it was like $10,000 in ridiculous charges.
Yeah, it's like the master of the house. Sometimes I charge him for the lice, double for the mice.
So he becomes
extra for looking in the window.
So twice. It becomes an indentured servant and shoved down a hole into the laundry chute, where we meet the rest of the cast of characters that are going to steal from the casino.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So he's down there. He meets other people who don't really matter. And he is now going to be working in this sweatshop forever. And this movie will be banned in China because they don't want people glumming onto how they actually work. Now, Wonka, being an industrious sort, is not going to let this completely get him down. So he and the little girl form an alliance. He builds a contraption that is dog-powered. So he gets the dog to run on a treadmill that powers the laundromat so they can all go do other stuff. And they go out and they start sort of nefariously selling chocolate because it turns out this city has the worst police chief, just the worst.
It's Keegan-Michael Key. What did you expect?
Congratulations, Chief Wiggum. You're no longer America's worst chief of police.
So I want to stop you there with something important.
Okay.
One of the things that my son and I were kind of giggling about and elbowing each other over was we couldn't figure out how the city worked, and in a very, very specific way. Because they're bribing him with chocolate to the point where we were convinced the currency of the realm was chocolate. Except that at the end of the movie, and you'll get to this in 12 hours when we finally get through this plot synopsis, when the three chocolatiers that have the mobsters that have control over the city,
chocolate cartel, Mark.
Yes, the chocolate cartel from Chocolate Mexico.
Yeah, Mars, Hershey, and Nestle.
They actually have a briefcase full of cash, a Halliburton full of cash, Robert, that they hang from the top of the arena, and you have to climb a ladder. Anyway, they have a Halliburton full of cash. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Jonas. Jonas is looking at me and he says, "Father." He calls me father. And he's just like, "I thought the money was chocolate. That's actual money. How does this city operate?" He's like flipping over movie theater chairs. He was so angry. He was like, "I don't understand this movie." But yeah, they bribe the chief of police with chocolate, and he proceeds to gain 500 pounds over the course of 2 hours.
Because it's not so much that chocolate is the currency. It's more like apparently these guys are lacing their chocolates with fucking heroin and the cop needs his fix.
Yeah, chocolate in this is very clearly derived from like cocaine. It is more what we're going with here. We are giving here. We give the cops drugs and that keeps them off our back and we sell the drugs. But there's also money.
Right. What really killed me was the one guy in the movie with the shotgun who kept robbing the chocolatiers. Please move this on. That's a wire joke, everyone.
I know.
They don't. I'm talking to the audience.
The audience has listened to you enough to know that everything you do is a wire reference.
Fair. Moving on.
So these three chocolatiers are in cahoots, and they are watering down their chocolate and storing the excess good stuff in a giant vault under the city.
Which makes no sense whatsoever, but again, we're going to move on.
And Wonka, with some of their help, starts covertly selling chocolate. He's making money. He's escaping through the sewers. He convinces his landlady and that the other nefarious gentleman is Bavarian royalty. Because where he used to be gross, now he's rich and powerful.
Landlady knows what she wants. She wants herself an aristocrat.
I mean, who doesn't? So what happens next?
Well, eventually they save up enough money to rent a shop for about a week. And the thought process here is we can sell enough to get ourselves out of debt, and the shop will be up and running, and yay, Willy Wonka will have shared his chocolate with the world, and all will be well.
However,
they have been discovered at this point by the chocolatiers who bribe the evil landlady to poison the chocolate. How do they poison it? With Yeti sweat. Which is not actually poison, it just changes your hair color and makes you real hairy.
Seriously, can I get some Yeti sweat? My freaking salon bills are getting racked up.
Yeah, come visit me. I'll give you some Yeti sweat. Arr. Keep going, Robert.
That's what the third purr tonight.
Keep stopping him, and there's going to be a lot more than purr going on here.
We're going for a record tonight. And immediately, the people who were 2 seconds ago singing Willy Wonka's praises.
Rah, we're an angry mob. Rah, his name
You
is
gave
Bob.
my daughter a mustache. You must die.
And
Evil dies tonight. Evil dies tonight.
And they burn down his chocolate shop.
They sure do. Somebody was wearing a MAGA hat. There was a guy with a moose head. It was a whole thing.
And Willy Wonka is now super depressed because not only did his shop fail, he thought his dead mother would show up when he was able to share his chocolate with the world. And she didn't. And all he's got left of her is this 20-year-old bar of chocolate he's been lugging around.
Okay. So my son goes, wouldn't it have been funny if when he eats the chocolate, if he just spits out and goes, oh, it's rotten. Wow, Joe, that's way to rob that seed of its emotional
Your
power.
son is right. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah, it would have been awesome, but not
if he bites into it and just chews it for a minute and go, and someone asked, is it as good as it was back then? It's a lot more stale and sharp.
Anyway, so yes, the chocolatiers give him the money, and
then the other chocolatiers show up and go, hey, here's all the money to get all of your friends out of their slavery, but you must make a solemn vow with no legally binding consequences to leave the city and never make chocolate
again.
Dun dun dun. And Wonka goes, fine, free my friends.
All right, real quick, there was a detail. He's also all this time been tracked by Oompa Loompa Hugh Grant. Well, there was a scene before this. So Oompa Loompa Hugh Grant has been quietly and slowly stealing back the cocoa beans that Willy Wonka took from the island that Hugh Grant, Oompa Loompa, was watching. So Hugh Grant was exiled from the island and was told, I will bring back the cocoa beans 10,000-fold. So slowly but surely, he's been stealing them back. When we meet him and hear the story, he's like one bottle shy of the debt that he owes. So now Wonka's on the boat. He discovers it's about to be blowed up. But before that, Oompa Loompa Hugh Grant shows back up again. And that's when they discover that the urchin, the child, the second lead of this thing, is actually Noodle is actually the niece of the major villain. Go.
No, you're doing good. Keep going.
No, that's how you do it fast. Go back to your turn. Tag in there, Brett.
It's like at this point, I'm just waiting for one of you guys to start saying "Oompa Loompa Doopity Dod." For love of God, can we move on with the plot?
So, as Mark said, they try to blow him up. Oompa Loompa Hugh Grant activates his inflatable life vest and jumps to safety because he's James Bond.
It's an Oompa Loompa. You don't ask questions.
I have so many questions. But, again, the crux here is that the little girl Noodle is, as was mentioned, the niece of Slugworth and the actual now heir to the Slugworth chocolate throne. And
technically, no, she's not.
Well, she will be after he goes away.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the whole reason they wanted her buried under a pile of laundry was they didn't want a claim to the throne. Keep going.
So, Game of Thrones chocolate edition here.
Yeah, again, the fortune is still Slugworth's. It's like she wouldn't have gotten until after he died anyway. He just got super paranoid.
Believe me, I'm aware of how stupid it is.
We're so close.
So, everyone else was freed, but not Noodle, who was locked in the pigeon coop again, which is the worst fate. And now Willy Wonka feels fine breaking his agreement with them because they broke it with him first, and this contract is void. They did not read the fine print.
Etc., etc. Good day, sir.
Good day, sir. You get nothing. You lose. So they break Noodle out of the pigeon coop, and we get the Ocean's 11 heist. It involves a giraffe that was previously molested by Wonka.
And a handful of monks singing giraffe, giraffe.
It was milked. It was milked. It wasn't molested. That was a different scene.
They bribed her with acacia mints, okay? And considering the fact that acacia to the human tongue is actually extremely bitter, those must have been some very interesting tasting mints.
And they released a giraffe into the cathedral, which is run by Mr. Bean, under which is the vault, and they break in, and they go to find the big book of secrets, where they've been keeping track of all their illegal doings. And the chocolatiers show up about then, and with a gun, force them into the chocolate vault. And then they go, turns out between the three of us, we have enough chocolate left over currently in our stills to be dumped into the vault to drown you in chocolate. Good day, sir. And Wonka goes, hey, but wait, I got one last jar of candy here. If you see a little orange man with green hair, would you give this to him? It clears our debt. And they go, sure.
Uh-huh. Yeah, whatever.
lock him and Noodle in the vault, and begin unleashing the chocolate. And then they all eat the chocolates that were provided to them because that's what they do.
Well, it's Wonka. Despite how much they said his stuff was garbage, even they acknowledge his chocolate is the best.
And as our heroes are being drowned in chocolate, Oompa Loompa Hugh Grant goes, no, this was mine. And you have stolen from the Oompa Loompas. And now we will return the favor. So James Bond, Hugh Grant, breaks back into the vault, takes the book, steals all the chocolate, saves the day, and heads off on a raft to make out with an Oompa Loompa girl, because that's how all the James Bond movies end.
Yep, I'm good with this.
And they escape. They turn over the book to the police officers who go to arrest all the chocolatiers, but it turns out Wonka murdered them. But what he gave them was super strong flight chocolates, and
delayed reaction hover chocks.
Maybe you'll come down, maybe you won't. Who knows? You could just asphyxiate slowly in the upper atmosphere, and one of the most horrifying deaths imaginable.
They hold on to a spire and don't go into the moon.
If you've read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you know they come back.
Anyway, yes.
So now we're sticking to continuity.
What? I'm just arguing that they're not dead because they have a plot to play in the first book.
So evil is punished. The police chief and all three chocolatiers are arrested by the one good cop who suddenly realizes, hey, every single bad thing that's ever been done in this town has been put in the damn book for convenience.
It's like that scene from The Producers. It's like, look at this book. It says show to the IRS. And the other book says never show to the IRS.
Oh, right. That's exactly right.
It's weird that it said real book versus fake book on the other one. It's what an odd thing to put in there. Anyway.
I desperately want a Mel Brooks version of this movie. And I'll never get it, but I desperately want that now.
It certainly needs one. It definitely needs someone who's a master of parody. So Willy Wonka and Hugh Grant Oompa Loompa.
Well, hang on. We're not quite there yet. So Wonka, now as the chocolate is being shared around, opens the chocolate bar from his dead mother.
Oh, yeah.
And the inside is a golden ticket.
No, this hurt me.
With advice that just says, the secret is not in the chocolate, it's in who you share it with. So he shares this 20-year-old bar of chocolate with his friends, and it's great. And then they go, oh, by the way, little girl, we found your mom. Like, oh, you could have led with that, but no, you had to indulge with the chocolate. Well,
and it turns out her mother works in the local library, which is great because Noodle loves to read. So they're reunited, and Wonka, now with a bunch of money, goes to Oompa Loompa Hugh Grant. Oompa Loompa Hugh Grant shows up and goes, hey, you still owe us a jar of chocolate, and then we're good. And he goes, hey, walk with me for a minute. So here's this old castle, and I'm going to buy it. And I'm going to turn you see, I can't just have a shop front. I need a factory. And he goes, yeah, like that tracks. And I need a workforce. Do you know any cheap labor? And he goes, I will sell out my entire race. No, he asks him to be his lead taster because it isn't until after the... So he doesn't get the Oompa Loompa workforce yet.
Timothée Chalamet shows up on the Oompa Loompa shores with a bunch of other white men, and they start throwing Oompa Loompas and the other Oompa Loompas are just like selling them to them, just like, yeah, we captured them in the Civil War that we had, and they put them on the boat, and they brought them over in chains, and they put them in the castle. Go. So he asked, later on they'll be traded for sugar and guns.
Oh, was that a Roots or reference?
Maybe.
Well, and actually most of them wind up in either the Middle East or Brazil, but we don't talk about that for some reason.
I love you, Robert.
Do we need to hit the disclaimer again?
No.
Hey, all I did was speak truth.
Hey, listen, learn your knowledge.
God's honest truth.
Learn your knowledge, people. All right, wrap it up.
Now, hang on. I have to do a disclaimer. I have to do my disclaimer now, which is not to say that slavery in America was not horrible. It was. We just, for some reason, ignore how many other places like exported slaves from Africa. So, because
people want to hear what we thought of the movie, buddy.
I know. So he goes, and look, if you can be the chief tester, and we're going to build this up, and then take me back to your people, and I will convince them. And he goes, yes, you can easily convince them to come work for you for peanuts. We love peanuts, literal peanuts,
cocoa beans.
we need the salty to go with the sweet. It'll be great. And we end with the imagined version of the factory that will be built. And then your brief little opening credits scene, opening post credits, where Hugh Grant comes out with a projector and goes, I got something for you. Here's what happened to everyone else. And tells us all the heartwarming things that happened to the other good guys and how the evil, despicable laundromat owners were I want to make an everything everywhere all at once reference, but I can't quite make it work in my head off the top of it. So we're just going to go with they drank a lot, turned into horrible monsters, and were arrested and carted off forever and ever.
Well, that's one way to try to hide the evidence.
It is. It really is.
I really like this movie. Let me go ahead and say, especially because we actually have an audience tonight. So,
hello, audience.
Thank you for sticking through the plot synopsis. That if you're wondering, like, wow, he's really bossy, the plot synopsis would still be going for the next hour if I didn't. And I want to keep you all. I love you all. Anyway, I'm a big fan of musicals. I enjoy my musicals. So does Alexis.
Can hang on. I have to ask.
Yeah.
Because I have a guess.
Yeah.
Your favorite musical number from this movie?
Go ahead, guess.
Sweet Tooth.
I don't think it was that.
Scrub.
No, it was I think one of the early songs. And that's well, let me get to it.
Okay.
Because I honestly don't have. There's a couple of things I want to say about the music, but I'm kind of going through this. One, I'm a big fan of musical. Two, as a film historian and amateur critic, I'm a fan of Golden Age Hollywood. Not just the content that it produced, but the style in which things were done, the way in which Hollywood operated, is something that I think is sorely lacking in today's modern Hollywood. And Robert and I, if you've never watched Damn You Hollywood before because you're friends with me and you're watching this for the first time, this is not just a podcast review. This is a sort of an examination of both historical and modern Hollywood in all of its facets, from the content to the context to the finance and the criticism. It's everything that you could want to know about how Hollywood works in all of its ways. And one of the things that we've documented over the last couple of years is how, because in Hollywood's race to make billions of dollars, there's no bravery left. They don't make, it's sequels and remakes and adaptations of a lot of comic book stuff.
They're trying to reboot the X-Files.
I'm sure they are. And so the point,
director from Black Panther.
And so the point being is that in the rush to get out product that has a built-in audience, a lot of the quality is lacking. Which brings me to the thing I like most about this movie. It's been a while since I've seen a whimsical movie that evokes the lightness of Golden Age Hollywood.
It's been a while since there's an allegedly whimsical movie that actually has whimsy.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, if you think about the way movies were done in the 50s and 60s, and a little bit in the 70s, though the 70s tends to be more dour than anything else, there was...
Can't imagine why.
Yeah, it's a reflection of the time. It transported you to a place of other. It was an actual, it was an actual fantasy. But I'm not just saying like a place where like dragons and knights exist. I'm talking like Zorro, Robin Hood. These were not exactly fantastical worlds, but you were transported to a world of fancy and fantasy, and that was the magic of Hollywood. And a lot of that is lost now. As they're tripping over their own dick to try to figure out, between messaging.
It's my turn to use the volume.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that. And so it was nice to see a movie where it felt like there was a lot of, besides Barbie, there was a lot of time and energy put into the stagecraft, into the sets. Like, it felt like there was, when they showed the old footage of like Star Wars and stuff, there was a lot of time and effort put into building sets when they weren't on location in Africa. And that was one of the first things I noticed about this, is how great the sets look. And it's not like it has like this really wild color palette like Barbie did, but it's more of I immediately felt like I was in another place. I was in another world. And then, but it was also very like self-contained. And so like they're evoking some of that Dickensian motif, you know, like this is this here, you have your poor here, and you know, this is kind of Londonish, but still keeping, you know, that fantasy element. So I love the look of it. I love the feel of it. I love the fact that despite the fact that it's a adaptation of a novel and the third time they've attempted this on film, it still felt like its own self-contained whimsical novel movie, which is a very wild and different experience from a lot of the stuff we've watched this year that wasn't a prestige film like Killers of the Flower Moon or something hyper violent like John Wick. Again, I'm a lot of comparisons to Barbie because I could say a lot of those things about Barbie as well. I was saying this to my kids. They were like, "What did you like about this?" Father, what did you like about this? They call me Father. And I said, you know, I like Lin-Manuel Miranda. I don't want to get into a fist fight with Alexis. So Alexis, hear me when I say the following English words. I like Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think that the stuff he produces is very entertaining. However, the curse of being wildly successful and entertaining and talented is that everyone then copies you and does it poorly.
Yeah, didn't we talk about this in our last movie review? It's like you don't hate the source, you hate that they're getting, what was it, Robert? Their non-union Mexican equivalent?
Yeah. We talked about this with Wish because the music in that feels like Lin-Manuel Miranda knockoff.
So my point being that a lot of musicals suffer from copycat Lin-Manuel Miranda syndrome, and they're not as good. And one of the things I liked about the music in this movie was that it was not that. It very much felt like its own thing. Yeah. Look, whether you like it or not, at least it wasn't that. And I very much liked it. As somebody whose father was a huge musical fan, so I grew up listening to musicals. I've seen a bunch. I've heard a bunch. I felt transported back in time to the golden age of oh gosh, help me, Alexis. Who the famous people that did Sunset Boulevard?
Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
Sunset Boulevard wasn't a musical.
Shoot me. The two guys, and the guy and
Hammerstein.
Thank you, Jesus Christ. So like,
hang on. If I didn't know you as well as I know you, like you say, the guys who did whatever this thing, that wasn't the thing we're talking about.
I thought you were trying to talk about like the Sherman Brothers or something.
No.
Or Gilbert and Sullivan, depending on.
No, I was going with Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Okay. That felt more like what you were trying, because Gilbert and Sullivan are a lot more.
Yeah, this wordy. Felt like a classic Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, which I sorely miss. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but my daughter and I saw it on one of our daddy-daughter nights, and it's going to be one of those weird comparisons, but go with it. I was getting a lot of Dear Evan Hansen vibes from this, not context-wise, but the style, the singing, the style, the type of music. It felt like the same composers from Dear Evan Hansen also worked on this movie. A very similar vibe.
Okay, if Dear Evan Hansen is touring, the actual stage show's touring in Tampa, take your daughter to see that, because that movie is a bastardization of the stage show.
Right, but you heard what I said about the style of music.
Yeah.
They felt very similar, and I liked the style of music in Dear Evan Hansen. I can't compare it to the original. I don't know.
Yeah, the fact that they had so much nepotism for the lead that I was waiting for Chris Hansen to walk out at any minute.
I think Tim, it's funny. I was thinking back to a review of The Lion King, and we were talking about some of the voice work and how the voice work, especially on the lead of Simba, was so poor. It didn't have power to it. It didn't have depth. And then here's Timothée Chalamet, and he's amazing. He's so good in this. Like, Johnny Depp should take acting lessons from Timothée Chalamet. He is amazing in this movie, and I'll tell you why he's amazing, because you're just like, really? I thought he was okay. No. Listen to what I'm saying. Timothée Chalamet found the place in the middle of overacting and way too subtle. He managed to capture a whimsical, magical, childlike character without being a retarded toddler.
He's a great actor.
He's really, I was way impressed, and like, I don't think he's like, I didn't think he didn't blow my mind in Dune or anything like that or anything else I've seen him in. So this is really the first time I've seen him and gone, wow.
I can tell you my big problem with Timothée Chalamet in this movie.
Okay. What do you want to do now?
I hate his singing voice.
See, I didn't. I enjoyed his singing here, and I don't know how much of it was auto-tuned or like corrected in post. But what I saw, didn't seem like it was mismatched. And I thought it was pretty great. I enjoyed his portrayal of Wonka. I thought it hit just the right pitch. I thought him and the girl had really fun chemistry. I thought the girl was everything the girl from Dumbo was trying to be, but missed the mark entirely and like hit somebody, in the next fucking room. Like they finally, Robert, this is monumental. They finally got a young, black, precocious black girl right. And she wasn't awful and annoying or the smartest person in the room or has autism as a superpower. It was fucking great. She was just a kid in a struggling situation, and she's trying to figure stuff out. And she bounced off Timothée Chalamet really, really well. So performances, I think, across the board were mostly hitting the right pitch. The songs were lovely. The sets were fantastic. My problems with it... So Jonas's thing about why did they have a book with all of the wrongdoings that they did? That's not how ledgers work. The 9-year-old said that. And it goes to a bigger point of the weakest part of this movie is the writing. It's lazy. There's way too many plot contrivances. There's a lot. This is a very Jingling Keys musical where everything that's good about it distracts you from the fact that the story sucks. It's not good. And that's about it, really. It drags a little in the beginning, but once he starts selling chocolate, the movie picks up and it kind of goes high speed from there. Michael Key, whatever the hell his name is.
Keegan-Michael Key.
Sure. Johnny Appleseed, he's fine. He's sort of the comic relief villain type character. And I thought it was okay. I think he's doing the best job with a stupid character. And I think that's my problem with it, is the character I don't think is well written at all. The guys playing the villains are somewhere between funny and menacing. It's a very weird spot for them to be in, but I got an appropriate amount of menace from them. They're not Skeletor or anything. They're not, they're not the high priest from the Temple of Doom, but they were fine. They were adequate enough for what they needed for this movie. That's it. Alexis, anything else? Anything that you liked or disliked about the movie?
One of the things we talked about the music, but and as much as I did enjoy the songs, and I didn't have a problem with Chalamet's singing voice. I'll admit it wasn't like knock my socks off. Oh my God, why isn't this guy on Broadway? But I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I liked the score and
I think it was serviceable for what they needed for this movie.
Yeah. But I like the score, and I like how they utilize the opening notes of Pure Imagination so often for the leitmotif whenever Wonka was about to do something, and that they also had the Oompa Loompa music as a theme whenever they talked about the Little Orange Man or when Lofty started to try to sneak into Wonka's room. Again, the score did a very nice job kind of playing around with those themes.
Real quick, as per usual, loved Hugh Grant in this. And I was listening to The Town, and the Town was talking about how well Wonka was going to do. For those that don't know, The Town is a podcast that deals with the entertainment industry. It's on Spotify. Really, really good. Absolutely should listen to it. Not enough Hugh Grant in this movie. That was their criticism. 100%. I now want to see the Hugh Grant like Oompa Loompa movie. I'm usually anytime they're just like, we're going to do an extended universe or a spinoff or anything like that, I want to eat a gun. But I'm down for the 8-episode Oompa Loompa fucking Hugh Grant series. Just him explaining his name is Lofty. I was like pants off thrown at the screen. I was like, yes, you are the best.
Hugh Grant's dry wit with his humor worked very well for the dialogue of Lofty. It was genuinely funny.
I wish they hadn't shown him.
I've already started dancing.
I wish they hadn't shown him in the reclining chair in the trailer because I've seen as funny as shit, and I wish I had seen it pure and not ahead of time. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that was funny. No, there was just nothing I could really walk away from this movie hating. Yes, the story does have flaws in it, but to me, again, I keep using the phrase fairy tale, but it also just sort of felt like a story that a child would tell us. It has the charm of hearing it's like a little kid had written this, and not in the case of and then not like annoying like that, but there is, a very youthful spirit to it that you there's obviously a lot of flaws here that don't work, and they only work to further the story along.
It comes across as a child's pitch that an adult shaped into a movie.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? I think it was formed well enough that, yeah, even though there are parts of it that don't really make any sense, I was like, you know what? I'm still enjoying it. The villains were very cartoony villains, and I like that. I mean, for God's sakes, one of them can't even say the word poor without throwing up.
Yes.
Because it's making it available for the... Sorry, that killed me every time.
The poor are revolting. You're right. They suck on ice.
For the record, Slugworth, Fickelgruber, and Prodnose are the one element that carried over from the book, because in the book, Wonka's factory originally had people working in it, and then those three sent in spies. Mm-hmm. And then they started having, it's like, then Fickelgruber had ice cream that would never melt. And Prodnose had chewing gum that never lost its flavor, and blah, blah, blah. And that's why Wonka shut down the factory. And then when it reopened, he reopened it with Oompa Loompas. So basically, he had a slave force that would live in the factory and couldn't escape to go give his secrets to his competition.
Yeah, that tracks for me.
Yeah, that's why I was saying obviously they survived, because in the book they send their spies in, and so they're still trying to find a way to shut Wonka down.
Anything else?
I would easily put this in my top 10 favorite movies of the year. It's not mind-blowing. It's not roller coaster ride. It doesn't change how I look at cinema, but I fucking hate that I have to use this word to describe Wonka movie. It's sweet.
Yeah, this is I'm with you, Alexis. This is in my top 10 for the year, which I think it's gonna end up knocking out Evil Dead, which kind of bothers me. But like, I gotta pick 10, and I had 10, so I didn't think this was gonna be the one. But yeah, this is in my top 10 for the year.
It kind of reminds me when I saw, what was it, Christopher Robin. You know, you don't walk out of that.
Keep going. Either acknowledge it or keep going.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to find another way to put in a reference to 4 weddings and a funeral. But, you know, it's like, again, this doesn't, throw you for a loop, but you walk out with a smile on your face and kind of a warm feeling, and you've enjoyed it, and there's nothing in there that's made you grumpy. And I love when we get movies like that. I just really enjoy it.
That line, I mean, we all know I can be a softie with the movies. And especially if I'm having difficulties in my personal life, the movies tend to make me cry even more. And I was okay with this one. This one didn't really tug at my heartstrings too much. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't one of those where, I didn't have a Lord of the Rings where my face hurt from crying. However, the bit when he sees the ticket and he writes on it, because again, when you relate to the movies that there's a stronger reaction to them, a stronger bond, and the idea of it's not about the chocolate, it's about the people, is something I wholeheartedly believe. Don't be fucking literal and be like, what do you mean by the chocolate? It's not about the thing. It's not about the podcast. It's not about the MMA. It's not about the cartoons. It's about the people. And
it's about us.
Hey,
it's about mostly Robert.
That hurts my feelings. I've been solo on that show for like 2 years now.
So it's about the people in your life. It's about the children. It's about the children you have, the friends you have, the family you have, and that got me where I live. Rare movie does that these days, but sometimes they nail it, and it affects me. So I thought it was nice. It was a nice little bit of the movie there. All right, Robert, before you get into your craft review, you and I had a conversation offline about your personal taste versus your ability to objectively. And this is what makes you a master of this and why we've done this for so long. For people that don't know, Robert's the best. Robert can compartmentalize his personal issues with something, his personal taste, with his objective criticism. It's a hard thing to do, and most people can't do it, but Robert has got Olympic levels abilities of doing this when he wants to. Otherwise, he fucks off and gets a sandwich. So, having said that...
Hang on. 1, I didn't get a sandwich. I should have, but I didn't. 2, I had nothing to contribute to that portion.
I
of
know.
That
I'm
podcast.
tweaking
so I
on
could
your
sit
nipples
here and look dead-eyed into the camera Well, you
Wow.
and Andrew have engaged in the Mutual Masturbation Society.
Hey, that was the best mutual masturbation I had that year. Listen, so if you wouldn't mind, real quick, one, yes or no, musicals, are you into them or not? Two, objectively, what's right or wrong with this movie?
Musicals, yay or nay? More nay than yay. Like, there's some good ones out there, and I acknowledge that they're good. I mean, it's my dad's favorite or one of my mom's. I forget. One of my parents has an abiding affection for Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
I think I remember you telling me that once.
So I've seen that.
Mhm.
Yeah, my dad likes not Carousel.
I like to call that the movie that screwed over Julie Newmar.
That's amusing.
I'm not wrong. You know what I'm talking about.
No, you're not. You are not. So I've seen a few. I don't hate them. Musicals have a problem for me in that a good musical is just an amplifier for how you feel about the thing already, is kind of my opinion on this.
Okay.
So if it's a story or a theme or a production or whatever that you like, a good musical will enhance all of that. So, for example, I'm going to give two dark ones because I'm me, but these are not limited to this. So, Sweeney Todd. And I don't mean the Johnny Depp version. Nobody put that on me. That's not what I mean.
I like Sweeney Todd, the Johnny Depp version. Sorry.
It's not the worst iteration of that story, but again, Johnny Depp's another guy who I could do without ever hearing sing.
I always thought that was the best movie for a Tim Burton adaptation. It was one of those times where I felt his style fit very nicely with what they were going for. You know, it's not opposed to what we're talking about with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where it felt more Tim Burton than Roald Dahl.
So Sweeney Todd, the musical, go.
Or Phantom, because I've actually read the original Phantom of the Opera, because I'm me.
1,000 pages of it.
Yes. It's been
You're
a while
not talking
since
about
I
the
had.
Joel Schumacher Phantom, I hope.
Not my favorite version.
Well, yeah, because Gerard Butler can't sing.
He has a very narrow range wherein he can sing, and frankly, poor Patrick Wilson.
So your point?
My point is, if you are not inclined to like something, if it's a musical, you just like it a lot less. It just amplifies the sentiment you have for it.
Okay, so I thought you were a fan of Charlie the Chocolate Factory, so I'm not entirely sure how that preamble tracks. Explain it to me.
The preamble tracks because it's one of those things that I accept I like in a nostalgic rose-colored glasses way.
Okay.
I could talk about why the Gene Wilder movie version works, in which ways it does, in which ways it doesn't. I know where I land on it personally, but that's another one that if I rewatch it, I know what I'm skipping.
Mm-hmm.
It's got issues.
Yeah.
This movie, I'm not terribly inclined to like to begin with because I'm not a whimsical person.
I knew that was going to be the issue
Really?
here. I knew going into this that was going to be the issue with you, which isn't a bad thing, and I'm not criticizing you. I'm going for the same reason you and I keep having a fist fight about Barbie. There's a huge difference in our personalities and our likes and dislikes. That those things, Wonka and Barbie, hit me in a very positive place and hit you in the most negative place in your entire fucking psyche.
Not the most, but it's close.
Yeah, it's right there. It's like one circle outside the bullseye.
Pretty close.
Yeah, Robert doesn't like whimsy. Film at 11.
I don't.
So you were saying?
Sorry. So the fact that this movie is 2 hours long, which is too long for this movie. Like, if you want my big craft criticism of this, it didn't need to be this long. You could
use some. Yeah, as I said, drags in the beginning. This using them. We need to get the kids to the mall faster.
We could cut 20 minutes out of this pretty easily.
Easily.
It meanders. I appreciate that the music is trying to be more timeless.
Yeah.
And again, like you mentioned, that's sorely lost these days.
Mhm.
Everyone's in a rush to copy something which dates everything horribly.
Yep.
This is very much trying to be more a more timeless feel to it. So I appreciate the effort. Again, I don't like Chalamet's singing voice, and he sings a lot, and so that became a problem.
Was there anyone singing voice in this you did like? Did you think anyone else really stood out?
No, neither positively or negatively. Like it only bothered me with him because he does it so much.
Well, yeah, he sings almost like every.
He probably sings more than he speaks. If we timed it out, if we like tracked how many lines of dialogue versus how many like lyrics, I don't know. I might be wrong about that, but it feels close. There's a lot of this stuff that just feels. You're not going to come away from this movie lukewarm. It's almost impossible. This is either going to be something that is up your alley personally, or it's not. In my case, it's not.
Yeah, I think the vast majority of people who are going to see this thing, I think it's going to have like an elemental effect where it did okay its opening weekend. I think it did 150 million, and we'll talk about that momentarily. But I think word of mouth on it's awesome, and people are going to end up flocking to it over the next couple of weeks.
Pretty good chance.
Well, especially since the better movies that have gotten nominated for the Golden Globes and such, most of them are already on streaming. So unless you want to go see Godzilla -1, which I do, there's not that much left.
-1.
Huh?
Go see Godzilla -1.
Oh, I want to. I just haven't had time. I was saying there's not much else in theaters really to see this time of year.
In both of our
now.
top 10s for the year. Well, Aquaman comes out this week, and as does Migration. So there's stuff. But like I said, kind of like what I said with the Hunger Games, the people I'm talking to are all talking about Wonka.
Well, that didn't work out too well for the Hunger Games, though.
No, but that would also had a slow burn where the opening weekend it was kind of fair to middling, but word of mouth got it. I mean, we'll talk about that in a moment.
Well, then there was nothing else that knocked it off the list for a while.
Yeah, everything else
hang on.
Between fucking Hunger Games and Wonka has sucked dick.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong. Like I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
If there was only Aquaman coming out next week, I would actually pick this to repeat, if I'm going to be honest, at number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think Migration takes too much of its audience.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think it's going to repeat at all. I think it's going to suffer from Migration and Aquaman splitting the audience.
Yeah. Craft-wise, again, just sticking purely to craft, there's narrative holes, and I think what bothers me about it is I can appreciate trying to follow the fairy tale logic, but this is another thing with Dahl in particular that rides this really great line where the world is like 80 to 90% the real world, but that last little bit is where the magic exists. And
right.
Most of his stories are about regular characters in the real world experiencing that little bit of magic and how that twists everything else that they experience going forward. Here, I'm kind of with your son. Like, wait a minute, chocolate isn't the currency of the realm. Then why are we able to effectively bribe an entire police force? Why are we storing a vat of chocolate after watering down the chocolate we're releasing? This isn't heroin and we can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
But because we're using this as like this weird drug metaphor almost.
When she said, "Why can't you just let me enjoy things?" I was like, "Oh God."
And look, I'm not saying you can't enjoy it, but that's a craft issue. It doesn't make sense.
To that point, without going directly at my kids and without going directly at Ronnie and Alexis and you, and the bigger issue here is some people, the craft issues are not going to bring down the total viewing experience.
Yeah, and
it's the way you approach film. You either approach it as a whole or you approach it as a sum of its parts. You and me are both sum of its parts people. A lot of people are whole picture people, and so they tend to overlook a lot of stuff that doesn't track, or they don't even notice it until somebody mentions it later. But therein lies the difference, and there's room in this world for both. And I think like the warring factions of the just let me enjoy stuff people with the no, there's massive problems with this people. need to be like, it's okay to have both things. You know, it's okay for those two factions to have intercourse. Go ahead.
Overlap, Mark.
No,
Overlap.
no. Conversation and intercourse. Don't you? Jesse and I talk about this all the time on the Metal Hammer of Doom jukebox. We have conversation and intercourse.
Now relax and have a chocolate, Mark.
No, we're
fine. Robert, you want a chocolate?
Continue our intercourse, Robert.
There you go.
Are you desperately trying to say discourse?
Nope. I can continue. Keep
I
going.
know at this point you're committed to the bit, but I have to know, like, this started as you misspeaking, right? Like all those
He's
years
going
ago.
in it.
No. There is a period of time in the past year or so where someone used intercourse as a way of describing discussion, and I have clung to that like a rock in the middle of the ocean.
Indeed, you have.
Shouldn't you be clinging to like a piece of floating wood in the middle of the ocean?
No, it sticks up enough that he can be out of the water. I track.
Oh, okay. I get the metaphor now.
So yeah, that's a problem for me. Like again, like they're siphoning off chocolate. Like why?
Okay.
I get that they're the bad guys, and I'm fine with them being the villains. I'm fine. All you needed was, oh, he's better at this than we are. We must push him out and not allow a free and competitive marketplace.
Yep.
Instead, giant vat of chocolate under the church.
Yeah, it's a lazy writing thing because they needed because it's a setup. It's a Chekhov's gun. It's a setup for something that has to pay off later, and nobody takes the time to go, yes, but why? And everyone's like, because we need it to happen later. That's not a good enough reason. This is a craft issue. Your reason for things happening can't be just we need it to happen later. And if that's the only thing holding up the logic, it crumbles under the weight of itself under any kind of scrutiny. Keep going.
There's a few things that look on the positive side of things. You're right about this, about the commitment to at least a good chunk of this being physical set design and the value that conveys versus handing actors a bunch of green crap.
Yeah.
And going, well, this is what this actually is, just pretend. And letting the actors have something to work with, letting the audience have something real to watch, real to see people interact with. There's a lot of value to that that's kind of been lost in the, well, VFX people aren't unionized, so we can work them to death. So, look, get the Oompa Loompas in here and sit them at the keyboard to do the VFX, and we'll pay them in peanuts.
Hey, check out this article I found in 2007. Giraffe milk is the next big superfood that you literally cannot buy.
Oompa loompa doopity doo. I'm programming movies for you. Oompa loompa. Keep going.
Oompa dee dee. You're so lucky. You don't have to pay me.
Yeah. Apparently, vitamin A, B12, and
okay, clearly Alexis is bored, Robert. So finish up.
Yeah, I was just saying they're all higher in giraffe milk and higher in fat than cow's milk. So,
speaking of the giraffe, another thing that exists purely so it can run through a church.
Yep.
There's
giraffe. I'm sorry, the monks singing that was great.
The monks having to chant everything was moderately amusing.
I just wish they would hitting themselves in the head with 2x4s.
That would have been better.
I mean, come on, Rowan look. Well, it was a small role, but Rowan Atkinson gave it his all, and he was.
Rowan Atkinson's great in this.
Rowan Atkinson's great. Yeah. I would rather we see like 80% more of him and 100% less Hugh Grant, who just makes everything worse.
Stop.
I profoundly disagree with the decision to turn Hugh Grant's Oompa Loompa into James Bond. I can't get over it, man. I can't get over the jetpack.
I love you.
It wasn't a jetpack. It was a glider.
I don't care. I love you to death. That is the oddest thing for you to pick at this movie and go, this is the hill I'm dying on. Hugh Grant, A, takes up 10 minutes of screen time collectively. B, it's a gag to get them off the ship, which you can say, like, it's stupid and it shouldn't have been there and it's poor writing. I'm with you. But it's like, you're not just saying that. You're just like, no, and this is where the film lost me entirely. And I'm like, really? Why?
there's
probably shouldn't tell Robert that the Dungeons and Dragons movie is also on my list of the top 10 movies of the year.
Fine, I don't care. Like what you like, put it wherever you want to put it. I genuinely don't care.
That's my motto. Put it wherever you want to put it. So why is this the hill you're dying on?
It just feels so stupid. You have this tribe of apparently mostly primitive Oompa Loompas on an island in the middle of nowhere who are jealously guarding the 4 cocoa beans that are slowly growing on this one tree in their territory. Hugh Grant falls asleep while guarding them, so Willy Wonka takes them because of course he does. And this one Oompa Loompa, who is terrible at his job, is exiled, and over the course of tracking Willy Wonka, becomes the master thief of all master thieves.
This is what I'm saying. An 8-episode fucking movie, show detailing his
where
journey
Jackie
would be
Chan
amazing.
with Jackie Chan as his stunt double with all the stupid stuff that he does.
You've seen the trailer for Argyle, right?
Yes, I have.
So the bit where
Everyone
they're at the back of the train car and it blows the back off and they exit out using the parachute. Same scene, but with Hugh Grant's Oompa Loompa. Would make that so much better.
What you're asking for is to replay like at least one of the Mission Impossible movies with Hugh Grant Oompa Loompa in the role of Ethan Hunt.
Hugh Grant.
I want to watch. I'll say, how about Bullet Train with Hugh Grant Oompa Loompa?
Don't you touch my bullet? No! Don't! I'll kick you off the show. Don't you ever touch my Bullet Train? Bullet Train's amazing.
I know it's amazing. It was one of my favorite movies from last year.
No! Don't you touch a perfect thing? No! But you want to fuck something up? Put Hugh Grant in Dead Reckoning. That would have made it so much better.
No, but I don't know if it could have made it worse because Hugh Grant, he would have, because Hugh Grant mathematically and statistically makes everything worse.
I disagree. All right,
look, here's what you want, Mark. I know what you want. Let me tell you what you want. You don't know you want this, but let me tell you what you actually want.
You gonna tell me what I really, really want?
You want a side movie where Hugh Grant wakes up, sees that the cocoa beans are gone, goes to the middle of the island and digs up his weaponry. And you want Oompa Loompa Hugh Grant John Wick.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Could somebody get the guys from Warp Zone on this?
All right. Anything else, Robert?
We're just giving away gold. That's all
we've been giving. Look, we have been. Look, damn you, Hollywood, if nothing else, has been giving away Hollywood free ideas, all good ideas, for the entire run of this podcast. If you've got nothing else, I'm going to the money.
I think just the last bit here,
and then we're going right into the money.
Right into the money.
Oh, by the way, fun fact: did you know that they actually hired a chocolatier to make all that candy on the set? Everything the actors were eating was real chocolate, and apparently it was pretty damn good.
I would hope so.
I hope they have to do multiple takes. And could you imagine the amount of chocolate? Surprisingly, all didn't look like.
The director admitted he gained like 50 pounds on set.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Robert, go.
Same story. So, Mark, you and I reviewed Hannibal.
They were given real people to eat?
Not real people, but real food. There was an actual food consultant there.
Yeah.
1 or 2 times, Lawrence Fishburne would flub a line. Oh, no, I must eat more foie gras.
Okay, finish.
Okay, you mentioned that, Wonka getting the message from his dead mother it hit you emotionally. The scene right after that where they reunite the little girl with her estranged mother. I'm going to pick at this scene for just a minute. The emotion displayed there is wrong. It's not the kind of... Look, this woman was told that her daughter's dead.
Yeah.
And has lived like 8, 10, 12 years with that. Forget however old the child is. When that little girl comes around the corner, like, we get a happy reunion that's like, oh no, I've been on vacation and I missed you for 2 weeks. Not, I thought you were dead, I didn't know you existed. And that, again, it's that really kind of hit me wrong. Especially after a moment that, look, did Wonka's, again, thing from his dead mother hit me? No, but that was a well-constructed scene with the right emotional tenor for most people.
Yeah.
to follow that up with one that's supposed to be more emotional and it falls as flat as that one did, it didn't like that. That's a problem.
Yeah, for comparison's sake, if you look at like the multiple endings of Return of the King, where every scene, you bow before no one and everyone cries, and then and they go back home, and then there's emotion in
Can't
that.
go home again.
Yeah, and then they see Gandalf to the ships, and that's when Frodo reveals that he's leaving, and that's when everyone fucking loses it. But then it's even worse when Sam goes back home again, and the movie finally ends, and by that point we're all out of tears. It should. What you're saying is well taken. Every beat should build, and this one falls beneath the one before it.
Yeah. Again, I, as a personal thing, did not really enjoy this. Again, it was draggy and I don't know. It just, for some reason, I couldn't follow the fairy. The fairy tale logic never connected with me in this one, and I don't know. I'd much rather have sat through. Not to bring this one up again, but I'd much rather have sat through The Boy and the Heron again, like that, because all that movie is dream logic, like a lot of Miyazaki movies are.
I gotta find time to take my kids to go see it. That was one where it was funny. They're like, "This was great," but when are we seeing The Boy and the Heron? And I'm like, "I'm reviewing it."
Mm-hmm.
All right,
So,
folks.
hang on. Last thing, because you guys mentioned this is in your top 10.
Mm-hmm.
It might, if I were to say that this didn't make my top 10, I would have to have 10 better movies. This year sucked so much, I'm not sure I can do that. This might technically slip in at number 10 for me. And yes, Alex, go rewatch Lord of the Rings. The 20th anniversary of Return of the King coming out was not long ago.
Hey, real quick.
And boy, do I miss those movies.
I hate to be the guy. I hate to be doing the thing that I yell at Alexis for, but it's me, so I'm going to do it anyway. So yes, no. It's a real quick yes, no game. Okay.
Okay.
Let me find it real quick. It's the Oompa Loompa Loopity Doo. I'm scanning my phone for a picture for you. All right. So this is my top 10, and I guess you said that it's going to slip into your top 10 because there's not.
I don't know that I can come up with 10 better movies than this one.
Okay, so the obvious one on here we're going to throw right out. Barbie. That's not in your top 10.
I have no opinion.
Okay.
In mine.
Haven't seen it.
I'm sorry. Can I play along too? Can I play with the big boys?
You can always play with me, Alexis. Yes, you can play.
Thank you.
But yes, you can play. But the point of this is to see because I'm naming 10 movies that I think are the best movies of this year, and I'm curious to see, besides Barbie, because I got to take one of these out now to put this in. I'm curious if any of these are on his top 10. So Barbie isn't. We know that, but it is on yours. Mm-hmm. Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
John Wick 4.
Yes.
Haven't seen it.
Okay. Gran Turismo. Remember the fight we got into about Jason with that? Because at the time it wasn't our top 10.
Yeah, but that was like 4 months ago, and I'm
didn't see it.
Worth watching, by the way. Godzilla
hang on, I'm not sure about Gran Turismo. I got to think about that.
All right, Godzilla -1, which we both said, and you haven't seen it yet.
I really want to.
Yeah, definitely worth a watch.
One of the best movies all year.
Yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yes.
Holding off on seeing that. My parents want to watch it, all of us together, but we got to wait till after the first of the year because of scheduling.
You start it now, it'll end the first of the year.
Well, that's actually, I joked because the mom wanted to go to the theater, to which I said, well, it's already on digital for rent. Why don't we watch it over at my place so we can have a fucking intermission?
Extraction 2.
Yes.
Have you seen it, Alexis?
No.
Alexis, man,
maybe watch the first one for an episode of Comic Stripped.
Yes, you should watch the second one. It's awesome. The Creator.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you seen it yet?
No. It got mediocre reviews. I thought it looked cool digitally, but visually.
We praised it a lot.
Okay.
Technically speaking, it's very good. I know why it didn't hit with audiences, but it's a study in how to properly use digital effects, so you don't have to spend the gross domestic product of Guatemala and Costa Rica reshooting anything.
Evil Dead Rise.
Yes.
That's a backup for me.
And finally, and I think this is the one I'm going to kick out of my top 10 and replace it with Wonka. I'm gonna say this, and I'm going to have to then now spend the next 20 minutes hearing Alexis lecture me about it. But Super Mario Brothers.
It's on my list.
I know it's on your list, but I'm feeling like we're going to get yelled at because I'm about to kick it off mine, because I think it made the list because there wasn't a 10th movie I could think of, but I think Wonka's better than Super Mario. I think I liked Super Mario because it did the IP right, and it was a well-made movie, but I don't think it's better than any of the other ones I just said, including Wonka.
I don't know. It might be for mine. I haven't made mine yet. I need to sit down and really kind of go through what we've seen. But look, how many of those did I hem and haw about?
Yeah.
But that's kind of the point. Like, that's been the year. There's almost no middle ground this year. Like, there's 4 or 5.
Spider-Verse on the list?
No.
I've got Spider-Verse. Among the others that you listed, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Sorry, that is on my list.
I'm not going to beat you up on air.
Mentioned Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, and I know you two haven't seen this, but I put Nimona that was on Netflix on my list. Really good animated film.
I have not seen that yet.
I'm going to put this up on here. I'm going to laugh and then going right into the money.
He's not wrong.
For Robert's top 10 list, Oppenheimer and Godzilla, and that's all, everybody.
Hang on, I mean, this is going to preview a little bit our year-end thing in a couple of weeks, but I mean this in all sincerity. Like, there's been a lot of crap this year. Like, it almost feels like more than usual, and that's not just because that's what we've reviewed. I mean, just again, if you look at everything that's come out, like there's been good movies. I don't mean to say that there hasn't been. There have been
a lot of disappointing movies, like movies that we thought were going to be in the top on our personal top 10, and
I'll give you brought this up when Variety listed their top worst movies of the year, and we went through. It's like, wow, yeah, there was a lot of garbage.
Oh,
I thought Cocaine Bear was going to be better than it was, and I know Jason's committed to the bit and like religiously so, but Cocaine Bear is not as good as I wanted it to be. You know what? Also, last thing, and then I'm just going to hit the button. The other one, you're going to laugh, but the other one I thought this is going to end up being in my top 10, and it so wasn't. It was a giant misfire. Expendables 4. I really thought that was going to like knock it out of the park, because it was like they just left Stallone to do whatever the fuck he wanted to do, and sometimes that works. And
character to die,
and sometimes that works, and sometimes you make Expendables 4. All right. With that said, here comes
Asteroid City would be in my top 10.
There you go. Not in mine, but you know, I feel like if I pick on Wes Anderson one more time, you're gonna fly here and beat me. So, with that said, here comes the money.
He's just one of the.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
All righty. So, StreamYard. Can we move this on?
It'll get there.
Yeah, it's like I do it, and then
you know, Mark, for a guy who is as in love with whimsy as you, it's weird you don't like Wes Anderson.
His older stuff, yes. Like the more stuff now, he just seems like the weird autistic guy at a party. All right. On a budget of Marvel money at $125 million. At the time of this recording, it has made $156.2 million. And for those of you who are watching for the first time, for the last time, this is the part of the podcast where we discuss budgets and we discuss finance and we look at the worldwide box office and we make some projections and we talk about what's going on in the world of film. And so it kind of doubles as a news segment. Some of these are shorter than others, and sometimes we spend the entire thing beating the living shit out of Disney, like it hurt us as children and it owed us money. So
and this is the part where I say, scroll down, Mark.
I'll get
not
there.
Yet. We're not there yet. Let me do my thing. Sorry. Are you new? As of December 18th, 2023.
I don't like looking at ads.
Okay. As of December 18th, 2023, Wonka has grossed $43 million in the US and Canada and $113.2 million in other territories like China, for a worldwide total of $156.2 million. In the US and Canada, Wonka was projected to gross $40 million from over 4,000 theaters in its opening weekend. The film made $14.4 million on its first day, including $3.5 from Thursday night previews. It went on to debut $39 million, becoming the first live-action musical to top the box office in the post-pandemic era. I do like the fact that we now have to put that qualifier out there. Like the whole world prior to 2020 doesn't exist anymore. 1 week earlier, Wonka grossed $43.2 million in several other overseas markets in 37 countries where it was released. The biggest totals were from the UK, Mexico, Spain, Germany, Italy, China, Japan, and Brazil. Hey, China actually let this one in. Good for it. All right. The weekend that was, Wonka debuted at number 1.
If you're subversive about your messaging about workers' rights and humanitarian issues, they'll let it in.
Yeah. So, hey, this is one of the movies that David Zaslav didn't kill when it was finally finished. Wonka debuted at number 1. The Hunger Games maintained its position at number 2 for 5 weeks in a row. The Boy and the Heron dropped from 1 to 3. Godzilla 3 to 4. Trolls, which we are not reviewing, despite the fact that I keep being asked about it. People are weird. 4 to 5. Wish maintained its position at 6. Napoleon at 7.
Giant loss still.
Beyonce movie dropped from 5 to 8.
Beyonce, I love you, sweetie, but you are not gonna, get any better than what Taylor Swift brought in this year. Sorry.
Poor Things opened up at a bunch of theaters and is an Oscar.
It went into wide release.
And is an Oscar contender.
93.9% increase.
Jumped from 17 to 9. The Shift maintained its position at 10. Also debuting was 17 to our fall.
Watch The Shift.
Fall to Japan live viewing. American Fiction at 20. The Zone of Interest. Both from A24. Debuted at number 23. Immediate Family 31. Godard Cinema 42. The Kennedy Incident 41 and 42. Sorry.
I want to see the Kennedy Incident. I'm sure there's weirdos on the internet who have time stamped it on Netflix for you.
All right. Worldwide box office.
Work for this
nothing has fucking changed. So for the people who have never seen the segment before, just know this has been the same top 10 movies since June. Like, nothing has changed.
Since the last thing that changed
was Barbie.
I think when Barbie overtook Super Mario Brothers was the last.
Yeah. Okay. So since July, since the end of July, beginning of August, when Barbie and Oppenheimer had their run, and Barbie became the number 1 movie in the world, surpassing Super Mario, and Oppenheimer just was short of $1 billion. Everything else is still there. Ant-Man and the fucking Wasp.
They're just clinging to that thing. I'm just imagining this stick figure hanging on by one pinky, just like will not let go.
Motherfucker, Ant-Man and the Wasp is like the Night King's army. Like everything just dies, and then he goes, meh, and it just gets back up, and you're like, shit, I thought we killed this thing already. Nope. Here it comes again.
Cannot kill that which is already dead.
Ugh. Ant-Man and the Wasp, the zombie of films. All right.
Hey. Meg 2, The Trench, did better than Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and this amuses me to no end.
The Hunger Games is gaining on Indiana Jones. It's at $291 million. So it's at number 15 for the
Five Nights at Freddy doing better than The Flash. I'm going to celebrate that.
Here's everything doing worse than Five Nights at Freddy's.
Creed 3 starring assaulter and batterer Jonathan Majors.
Your career is dying.
Oh, damn it. You beat me to it.
Career's dying. Nothing. Your career is dead.
I'm sitting there going, what's dying? What's dying? I got to come up with a word for dying so I can do the Nelson thing. And then you fucking said it. I'm like, damn it. He got there before I did. Sorry. Let's see. The Flash. The Nun 2.
You should have been killed in the cradle by Zaslav.
I was going to say, for the love of God, we should have put a bullet in that and saved Coyote versus Acme.
I think the Marvels is entirely out of theaters. The Marvels had a $300 million budget, made $204 million.
Mark, do the ha-ha again. Your franchise is dying.
They've only got one movie coming out next year, so.
All right, Wonka currently at number 31 for the year, doing better than Killers of the Flower Moon, Evil Dead Rise, and The Exorcist Believer. Or as my daughter said, I don't want to believe.
Better than Shazam: Fury of the Gods
and Blue Beetle.
And Blue Beetle, I would say deserves to be a little higher. but
if you'd
Well,
hired
they can
a
deserve Schmerv.
hang on. If you'd hired a movie cast instead of a television cast, you might have got there.
All right. Next week this Friday coming up for the Christmas corridor is Migration, the new Illumination Jam. And for those that don't know, Illumination are the number one animated studio in the world right now. They are the people. They are the people that brought you The Secret Life of Pets, Despicable Me, the Sing, the Minions movies. They are the ones doing Migration that comes out this Friday. And in DC's death throes, the last gasp of a franchise, Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom.
Aquaman 2 is the end of the DCEU. This is about the fourth time we've killed this thing and tried to restart it.
Yeah,
at least this final. I was say, at least this time, James Gunn has finally buried Zack Snyder in the coffin where he belongs.
Yeah, and speaking of zombie franchises,
here is how you introduce the next attempt at the DC cinematic stuff. You have Dr. Manhattan sitting on the moon going, it's 1989 and I'm killing the DC movies. It's 2012 and I'm killing the DC movies.
Doomsday Clock.
Tell
me you actually did read Doomsday Clock. You're not just pulling that out of your ass.
I know the meme format. I've never read the comic. But that's how we introduce the next one is Dr. Manhattan going, so I killed the Schumacher ones with Batman and Robin. Then we killed it with firing Zack Snyder. Then we killed it again to start James Gunn's. And it's
Wait. What point did he kill Christopher Nolan and felt genuinely bad about it?
He did.
Never killed Christopher Nolan. Nolan was an adult, finished his movies, and went on to do other shit.
Nolan told a story that had an ending, like most stories should.
True. Right. And now he made Oppenheimer. Good luck to it at the Golden Globes.
I hope it wins everything.
All right, folks, in the final segment of our podcast, and I want to thank you for sticking with us for as long as you have, because we've pretty much maintained the audience the entire time. So God bless you all.
Hang on. All 5 of you. We love you.
6.
Speaking of, we can't ever have magic on this show. We have to tell everyone what our fucking numbers are. Jesus,
did you miss the part where I said I don't like whimsy?
All right, and now here is the part where Robert and I read Rotten Tomatoes reviews and make fun of the critics. It's the segment of the show you all know and love, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Yay, it came up on screen this time. All right. The critical score is 84%, so it's fresh, and the audience loved it on a 91%. So if we switch over to top critics, drops it to 78, so it's still fresh.
That tracks.
And all audience drops it to 86. That's about right. So
all right.
Overall, it's a critical hit. And the AI writes, with director Paul King at the helm and some of the solid new songs at the ready, the warmly old-fashioned Wonka puts a suitably sweet spin on the classic character while still leaving some room for the source material's darker undertones. I don't agree with that. I don't think this had, the darker undertone. Like,
honestly.
By the way, hang on real quick, because you'll appreciate this. Your godson Jonas pitched Willy Wonka, but done as Saw.
They already did that. It's Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
He wouldn't fucking know that.
I know he would.
He knew about the Virtual Boy, Mark.
I'm sorry you got outsmarted by a child. Get over it.
I didn't get outsmarted.
No, honestly, if I had another major complaint craft-wise about this, I think it would be that it's missing the darker undertones, because
that's what I was trying to get at. Like, yeah. It just reminded me that, because Jonas the whole ride in the car was like, okay, Willy Wonka, but hostile. And I'm like, all right, take it easy. He just kept pitching horror ideas for Willy Wonka. He has
Seriously,
not.
Google Willy Wonka, Christopher Lloyd. Show that to him.
Okie dokie. All right. Let's see. Let's find our friends. Oh, Lauren Veneziani of DC Film Girl. This ought to be good. As much as I love Timothée Chalamet and Olivia Colman, the songs are not memorable, and the message at the end did not feel earned.
Hang on. I'll give you the songs not being memorable. For crying out loud, Mark, you didn't have a favorite coming out of this, and you couldn't.
I was gonna say it was hard to ask which one was my favorite because it's like I like them all, but it's kind of like for me listening to a death metal album where like I'm enjoying what I'm listening to. I couldn't tell you the fucking difference between them.
Okay, yeah.
I really like the signature song they sing in the shop, "A World of Our Own."
Yeah,
I really liked it.
So I'll give you the songs not being memorable. I'm actually going to push back on the bit at the end about the message not being earned. No, that was kind of set up and tracked throughout the whole thing. It's clunky and it's aimed at children, but that doesn't make it unearned.
Yeah, I disagree with the unearned thing. Stephanie Zasharek of Time Magazine, top critic. Time Magazine, where Taylor Swift was the person of the year. Wonka is carefully calibrated to bring joy, but what do we want our joy to be? Something capable of being manipulated with buttons and knobs, with grand but somehow flat-looking sets. Oh, fuck off.
The sets were one of the best parts.
Ugh,
Hang on.
That's ridiculous.
How in the world is someone like you more cynical than me in this respect?
Shiraz Faruqi of Carson Tamar of Clappercast. A bit too bitter of a piece of chocolate for me. Get her, Alexis. This
is why I hated that I had to say this movie was sweet. It's like, oh my god, because I knew the puns were gonna come flooding out. It's like, oh, I don't want to take part in this. I don't want to say anything this cliche. You know, it's like, give me a motherfucking thesaurus.
The word you're looking for is saccharine.
Yeah.
I know. See, because I think of saccharine as a negative. Saccharine sounds like something that you...
So do I.
Yes. No. Who would think of saccharine as a good thing? When you say saccharine, it's usually because you're saying something is too sweet. That's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Joey Magazine
oh god, I can't take this. I'm getting a fucking cavity.
Of Awards Radar. Wonka has too much going on and not enough to chew on. Get him, Alexis.
Not enough to chew.
You get it?
I'm sorry. You wanted a much more overcomplicated plot?
Because chocolate is food. Do you get it? Do you get it?
Hang on. Let me get at something that this poor person is desperately trying to say, but doing so very poorly. This is a very scattershot story. It is slipshod. It moves around a lot, and it's okay to buy. Like, again, trying to get people to buy into fairy tale logic. Fairy tale logic still has logic, and that might sound weird, but the same thing with dream logic. Like, believe it or not, dream logic tracks. That's why it works. It's not chaos.
And you read Richard Roper's review, didn't you?
No.
Well, okay, because you just used the exact same words he did. Down scattershot. Look.
Oh, it is. No, I didn't read that.
I was going to read that next, actually. Richard Roper of Chicago Sun-Times, top critic. Timothée Chalamet underwhelms in a scattershot origin story that mixes too many ingredients into its chocolate-covered plot.
Yeah, I could do that. But I think we talked about it. Like, the essence of what he's talking about with the writing and the plotting and the narrative is accurate. It's a little bit bouncy in ways that don't always make sense. And it just... I understand why some people don't care, and I understand why this works for those people. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying understand where the criticisms are not... We're not pulling this stuff out of our ass when we're criticizing it.
Robert, brilliant, lovely, God's child, Robert Winfree, has talked about us being in a post-creativity world, which brings us to Paz O'Farrell of Screen Anarchy. At this point in late-stage capitalism, we are used to reboots, remakes, and sequels. Wonka is the latest victim. It ignores the tone of its predecessors, trying for whimsy over delusion. The result, a boring hour and 52 minutes.
Okay, hang on. As someone who was bored by this movie, and I was, calling it boring, I think, is unfair.
Yeah.
It's not boring. You can be bored by something that's not boring categorically. Again, I was bored by this movie. No problem saying it. Also, pick another hill to die on for your complaints about the state of the film industry and creativity. This is not one to die on. It's been a while since the last one. Claiming that you're ignoring the tone of the predecessor when you have no ties to the predecessor, creatively or otherwise, apart from allegedly adapting the same material, is a bridge too far in your criticism, sir. That's you carrying expectations into this that the movie neither promised nor delivered on.
I will say that his critique does bring up one thing I've seen from some other negative critiques that I don't know if we'll get to on Rotten Tomatoes or not. But there has been a lot of people saying that they're upset that this movie is lacking the dark undertones. The Wonka stories have always had very dark undertones. I mean, for God's sakes, he sends a little girl into a freaking furnace and doesn't have a clue whether or not she and her father are going to make it out alive.
And that furnace is lit only every other day, so they have a good sporting chance.
Very true. You know, just
he ran Violet Beauregard through basically one of those like squeegee machines to juice her. If you've read The Great Glass Elevator, he sees everyone leaving. Charlie does after the fact, so everyone does survive. But Mike TV's like 6 feet tall after they stretched him. Like they overstretched him. He looks like
Violet Beauregard is officially purple. She will be have purple skin for the rest of her life.
She didn't explode, but her skin was stained. Yes, it's
okay. So,
yes,
Robert,
but this is a Paul King movie. Paul King does not do dark undertones. If you've seen the Paddington movies, you know that.
So Robert Winfree is a heartbreaker and a dream maker, and this is one of his many, many ex-wives. The future ex-Mrs. Winfree, Tanya Lamb of Lola Lamb Chops. Oh, Lola. I'm disappointed in your wife, and you need to give her a talking to, Robert.
Are you going to read it before I respond to that?
Yes. Wonka is a sweet treat and pure magic. Yo, put your bitch in line.
We only communicate to each other through our lawyers now.
I'm going to say, Robert, should we start counting the tick birds?
We're getting there.
That is definitely a tick bird.
It's pretty close.
I saw one. We passed it up that said, because we weren't reading the positives, said, in a word, Wonka is scrumdiddlyumptious.
Yeah, there's a reason why I skipped it.
Yeah,
Peter Howell of Toronto Star, top critic. The experience could make your teeth ache, Derheap.
That is a terrible sentence.
Isn't that usually a good thing because it means it's sweet?
No, if it's oversweet, again, there's the aching, and then you have to go to the dentist and spend $3,000 in cavities.
No, seriously. In the 90s, he said you gave him a toothache was a compliment. Don't you ever remember the movie Clueless? That was slang for he thinks you're sweet.
I have never seen Clueless.
Oh, it's great.
Really?
Finola Dargis of the New York Times, top critic. The movie is overly busy as these kinds of eager to please diversions tend to be, and at 2 hours it overstays its welcome.
Again, man, I agree with the runtime issues. I'm not so sure about eager to please. You want my big positive from this movie, and I mean this. And it makes sense that it would come from the guy who did the Paddington films. I have complained ad nauseum about the lack of conviction in your filmmaking and lack of earnestness in filmmaking. This is an earnest film.
Yeah.
I may not like it, and I don't like this movie, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's not. There's an earnestness and a confidence in the material that they feel the audience will be there with them. If this had been done by a lesser director, everything would have been undercut with a bad joke.
Richard Brody,
faith in what they do.
Richard Brody, New Yorker, top critic. Unfortunately, the filmmakers' incuriosity about Willy is matched by their incuriosity about the star's range and depth.
I don't think I've ever seen the word incuriosity like before, just in general. It's like
partially he just wanted to use it. I feel like that's the word of the day calendar. Second, this is deliberately not a deep movie. Consequently, you can't assume that because the movie is playing to its strengths and its intention, you can't assume that there's a lack of anything more to it than that.
If you should be lucky to be one of Robert Winfree's many ex-wives,
Please stop.
you should count yourself lucky, because you could be one of the women he just keeps in the basement for his, torture and pleasure. And that brings us to Joanna Langfield, the movie minute. I don't know why you let her out of the basement, Robert, because then she goes into she does stuff like this. Sufficiently sweet. I still found this Wonka a little wonky.
I'm gonna go jam this pen into my neck now.
Yep, that tracks for me. Robert, why'd you let her out of the basement?
I'm not playing into your game.
That's what you told her.
It's funnier. This bit is genuinely funnier if I don't play along.
If you say so. Gregory Wakeman of the National United Arab Emirates. While the talent involved in Wonka is
where I'm sure they have no problem with the orange-skinned people being slave labor.
It could have been worse. They could have actually made them look like the way they were described in the book.
While the talent involved in Wonka is undeniably impressive, there's something a little off about the end product.
Your job is to express that, not express that it exists, sir. Also, you guys were very complimentary of the acting. I'll give it passable. I won't give it anything more than that.
All right, I'm reading this last one. It's a fresh review, but it's so stupid, I need to call it out. Johnny Alexis, New York Post top critic. He gets paid for this. Professional. Wonka is its own totally unchallenging confection. A Nestle Crunch bar of a movie. I fucking hope you got paid by Nestle for that.
Okay, I love Nestle Crunch bars, but
So,
I genuinely I do not get what he's going for with that. Is this a callback to those nostalgic Crunch commercials with the people who were freaking doped up on cocaine before they started singing about how much they love Nestle's Crunch?
Nice callback. No,
and that's why I love Nestle's Crunch.
No, what he's saying is this is the film equivalent of empty calories.
Terrific.
And I don't wholly disagree, but there's a better way to say that.
Yeah, it's like, who cares if it's empty calories? It's a chocolate bar, and a good chocolate bar. So again, it's like, is this positive? Is this negative? What are you going with here other than, you clearly were freaking paid by Nestle? Which wouldn't be surprising considering that Nestle owns the Wonka brand.
Friend of the show, William Bibiani of the Rap Top Critic, and this bothers me, and we're going to end with this one for sure.
Oh no, Mark, you've spent the last how many months saying my good friend William Bibiani, and now that his opinion differs from yours, you are distancing yourself from your good friend.
Look, Whitney Seibold and I are best friends. I'm not saying that William Bibiani and I are friends. He's still just only the friend of Whitney. We are friends through a friend. Wonka is a sort of safe and corporate product that the hero Wonka says we shouldn't settle for.
What?
I feel...
Okay, I get what he's trying to say there, but here's the reality about this. This movie takes no stance on corporatization. None. And I'm not saying that it should. I'm saying
can we get an amen that they didn't make the Chocolate Cartel this massive corporation? It was just three evil guys.
There could have been so much preachiness in this. There really could have, and there isn't. So stop bringing your baggage to this.
You could have had the Chocolate Cartel looting Loompa Land for all of their precious cocoa beans, and the Oompa Loompas need a savior in the form of Willy. Trust me, in
the form of uber pale Timothée Chalamet.
Alexis,
I can think of so many ways that this movie could have been worse.
Alexis, you watch a lot of cartoons, so you've seen The Secret of NIMH, right?
1,000,000 times.
Oh yeah, great.
I need the white man. And it has to be the white man with Napoleon hats invading the Oompa Loompa land, but I needed to frame for frame resemble Moving Day from The Secret of NIMH.
I'm sorry, just because I'm an artist and I love cartoons, you seem to be under the delusion I'm also a fully funded animator.
I didn't say I need you. I'm glad Robert laughed. I got what I needed out of that bit. Or either that or Avatar. Just fucking Marines coming over,
Yeah,
the whole...
exactly. With this, they could have made this movie into another Avatar plot.
Okay, sorry, your brother and I are now talking death metal records.
That's
Folks,
fine.
that is
He likes his death metal.
He's a good boy. That is our review. Speaking of good boys, that is our review of Wonka. Next
You'll probably
Tuesday,
like it unless you're like me, in which case don't.
Next Tuesday, because Monday is Christmas Day. Next Tuesday, we will be reviewing Aquaman, and then we're back on our Monday schedule for Migration. We will be joined by Zach Strobel. He's a good boy, good to his mother. We will also be joined by Alexis Hejna, if I haven't beaten her by then. And of course, Robert will be here. She rolled her eyes back at me. And of course, Robert will be here for all his fun and frolicking.
Frolicking.
So
rainbows overhead, bunnies around, birds chirping, all the whimsy in the world.
Speaking of whimsy, myself and Sean Comer was supposed to do the first 3 Home Alone movies, the theatrical ones, but he had a meeting that ran late, so then we pushed it to today. But then I had to Uber in order to have money for groceries, so we are doing it Thursday night. So check that out. Next week, like I said, is Aquaman. Am I doing anything else that week? And
doing something else this week.
And this is now be the 3rd or 4th time Pat and I have tried to do this. The Barrera and Morales trilogy. We've had to postpone this several fucking times. I was supposed to do the alternative commentary for Day of Reckoning this weekend, but I was requested by somebody in my family to just watch it with my family and not hide in my room all day.
Oh, thank God.
I wasn't going to bother you with it. You already said no. I was going to do it
No,
myself.
I said yes. It's on my schedule.
Oh, Melissa wants to watch it, and the emotional support boy is going to be across the state with his kid. So I have been told to watch it in the living room with the family.
Mark.
So yes. So Merry Christmas, Robert. Your gift came from Melissa, who made it so that you don't have to do Day of Reckoning now.
Mark, I love you. You're my best friend. If I had to watch 5 hours of boxing squash matches followed by Otto Wallin upsetting Anthony Joshua, I might have thrown something.
Merry Christmas. God bless us, everyone. Alexis, your plugs.
All right. So, yes, I'm on for Aquaman and Migration. TV Party Tonight will resume on January 3rd to discuss the Disney Plus series, Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Everyone check out Alexis's last TV party where she talked about Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, in which case she had the best guest she's ever had on TV Party, even better than me. My brilliant, God-sent son, Jonas Radulich, who goes on the internet to get knowledge that he shares. Yes,
your son is John Connor. We just don't know it.
You fucking beat me to it. I was like, John Connor, my son. He will defend us against the AI that's coming.
He is your son already starting his campaign for the presidency when he comes of age for it.
Oh my God! Did you hear this the interview we did today?
No, but I know that's the bit you're doing.
When I asked him, because I was alluding to the Trump administration and the rise in abortion laws and all of that. I couldn't really say that. I was talking to a 9-year-old and we were doing a comedy bit. So instead I was just like, how do you feel about the women's issues in America? What would you do to make women's lives better? And he says, they don't have to participate in the economy anymore. Give them everything for free. Immediately got every woman who heard it, got the vote. So it was like, we're voting for the 9-year-old. His other things were... I asked him about the death penalty. He was just like, I believe in the death penalty, especially for children.
Now he's got my vote.
Oh, yeah. So far, it's give women everything for free and the purge for children. He doesn't believe in the drug laws or the drug war. He was just like cocaine for anyone that wants it.
Look, man, we all know the drugs won the drug war.
Yeah. And then Starbucks will solve global climate change. That was his other thing.
Well, he had to miss one.
Yeah, well, but yes, he immediately got the vote of everyone that's seen his TikTok and Instagram today.
Your son understands how to pander, and I appreciate that.
He's awesome.
So
Anyway.
yes, our previous TV party tonight was Scott Pilgrim Takes Off with myself, Andrew Orozco, and some little brat who apparently gets on the show because nepotism is indeed a thing.
Future leader of America, Jonas Radulich.
Hang on. Nepotism and future leader of America are not mutually exclusive.
This is also true. Just ask the
Very
Kennedys. What else you got going on there, Toots?
All right. I think that's actually all I've got right now on the books as far as Damn You Hollywood. We got a couple other shows coming out, but I don't know at the moment when they're wrapping up. For example, we're going to be reviewing Has Been Hotel, which is premiering January 19th, but I can't get a clear answer if they're dropping all of the episodes, they're dropping like one or two, and then they're going to, I don't know what their schedule is, so I can't put it on the books yet.
I might make Jonas watch it just so I can get him on another show of yours.
Don't do that to him.
You're going to make him do that with a Vidsy Pop property?
I don't know what this shit is.
Mark,
I just know he likes anime.
Mark, look at me. Look at me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do not make your 9-year-old watch a movie with that much profanity per minute.
Oh.
First of all, it's a TV show.
Same thing. You know what I mean.
All right,
don't make him watch that.
I got it. Don't show him Has Been Hotel, which I didn't know what it was in the first place. I just want to fuck with Alexis. Go on.
All right, so yeah, I will be actually working quite a bit on upcoming TV shows and what we're going to be reviewing. In the meantime, yay, it came up. The bills are the plugs that actually do pay my bills. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. We are still doing our charity drive. This is going to go until Christmas Eve for every order that is placed either from our Etsy shop or from here. This is our handmade at Amazon shop. I usually put up the Etsy store. I figured I'd try something a little different. For every individual order, we will be donating $5 to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. As you can see, we got a lot of really great stuff here for a variety of fandoms. If you know somebody who is interested in fun, geeky, handmade accessories, go ahead and check us out. Again, our shops are on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I still refuse to call it X. Screw you, Elon Musk, and TikTok. I'm still trying to get better at TikTok. Someone told me that apparently if you want to go viral, you have to do like 10 uploads a week. And I'm sitting there going, I could barely do one upload a week. Whereas Mark's also got me farming out for uploads for him from my shows. So he doesn't have a problem with that.
I don't mind overworking my staff. I have no compulsion against that. I am an evil corporatist.
Well, that's why you don't get any chocolate.
It's fine with me. All right. However, if you're making like steaks and like burritos and shit, please send those in the mail. Yes.
To help with your TikTok, more of your dogs.
Oh, I know. I just did one with Eddie and the Wonka bar filter.
That'll help.
All right. What do you
loves dogs?
Oh, I know. Actually, you're going to love this, Robert. For Christmas, I got my 1-year-old nephew all 3 Kanto region Pokemon plushie starters.
Go.
We're going to do the unboxing Pokemon challenge with him.
Nice.
Yeah, we're going to put all 3 out at once, and I'm going to film, and we're going to see which one he goes for. You want to put money down which starter you think he'd go for?
I put a TikTok of my kids blind reacting. They've heard the song like a zillion times before, but I thought it would be, because you see on one of the things that people do on TikTok is like, it's like a mom and her kid in the car, and and like they're reacting to music of some kind, and then like there's a caption of when that happens. So mine today was when Father picks up the Christmas music, and it's Homo Christmas by Pansy Division, and I filmed them reacting to the song. And the thing of it was, is I shot the footage first. I was like, I need a slow kind of groove reaction into horror, into like terror. Okay. And I was like, just give me that. That was their direction. And so I filmed about I think it was like a solid 30 seconds of their just funny faces and reactions to things. And then I grabbed 30 seconds of Homo Christmas from TikTok. Oh my God, it lined up so well. It is the funniest fucking thing I've shot in a long time. Like I must have played it like 20 times in a row. I couldn't. Jonas, and then at the end, when Jonas like, I want to like have sex with you underneath the Christmas tree or some shit that they say in the song, Jonas just does like this, it falls over. It's great.
Well, at least it's better than playing Dominic the Christmas Donkey over and over.
That is not true. Why do you hate America?
I still refuse to believe that actually exists.
Because sorry, Mark, but we haven't brought it up yet. Christmas is next week. I felt an obligation to make a joke about that at least once.
That's true. You have not referenced your fake Christmas song all year, and
I was going to say you haven't even mentioned it in the chat. I was starting to wonder if we should go check your basement for pot.
Well, my whole life fell apart, so I'm not really in the Christmas spirit this year. Hey, Robert, what do you got going on in the world of combat sports?
Nothing. Last UFC event of the year was on Saturday. It was UFC 296, and it ended with a wet fart. But if you want the full breakdown, including the stuff that didn't suck, even though the main event was terrible, the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, I review that. I talk a little bit about some of the fights that got announced. I wax a little bit reminiscent about the year 2023 in MMA. At some point during the next couple of weeks, I should be writing up my year-end awards for MMA that will be published in 411mania.com. And if they won't publish it, they will. They're desperate for content. I will also be going over that when I do the next MMA podcast, which will be December 8th, because that's the closest, because the next UFC event is until the 13th. So my Saturdays are my own, and that includes the one with all the terrible boxing. You don't get to do that. That was the only thing you had, Mark, was that one boxing card.
I will make more.
No, you won't. There's a whopping 2 of them that you could actually do, and there's nothing. There's nothing.
I mean, January 6th is Virgil Ortiz versus Frederick Law.
Like I said, nothing.
The 13th is Otter Beterbiev versus Callum Smith.
You like Beterbiev.
And then February 3rd is Joshua Butatsi versus Dan Aziz.
No, that doesn't matter. Beterbiev is cool because Beterbiev is awesome, but...
Sorry, someone's putting up comments on our YouTube. You keep going. Oh, you already put them up on screen. You guys don't look anything like Hollywood actors. We have a capsule for that.
I would take one of those.
Shit. It'll make you evil.
What if you're already evil?
When you're evil. I played that for my daughter. I played that for my daughter.
Yeah, it's a great
that's
song.
Voltaire's best song.
Yeah.
Dude, that again, we can't use it anymore because we're on YouTube now. But for like the 3-year run of Everyone Loves a Bad Guy, the opening to that was my intro.
Yeah, I played it. We were hanging. My daughter, my daughter and I were hanging out one night, and I put it on in the car for her. I was like, "Hey, this used to be Robert's theme song," and we're in the car just like, "When you're evil," like marching in the car. All right, what?
Voltaire's actually said that he doesn't care if people use it for their YouTube videos.
We're aware. Yeah, but he doesn't own it.
That's the thing. Apparently, he gets a lot of people emailing him saying, "Hey, I want to use one of your songs for a student film, and I want to put that on YouTube or whatever." He has no qualms with it.
So, yeah, but if he doesn't own the music, he doesn't get a vote. Robert,
it's people.
Has CM Punk quit SmackDown yet?
He's never. He was on SmackDown once last week for a nothing promo. He's on Raw. I don't know what he's doing. I don't care.
Cool.
I do cover SmackDown, though, every Friday. This Friday was taped last week, but it's airing this week, so I'll be covering that on Friday. Stuff will happen. Do you want the spoilers? I could spoil it, but no one would care.
No, I want you to finish your plug so I can cut the TikTok and go to bed. I got work tomorrow.
So that's it. I don't think I have an... I don't know if I have an MLW thing this week or if that's going to wind up being next week. It fell in a weird time frame, so I'm not sure. But if they send it, look, if I get a screener, I'll write it up. If I don't, then I won't. That's my policy with them. So if there is anything, it'll be up. If not, there won't be. Again, SmackDown on Friday, pretty much every Friday. No more UFC events until the second Saturday of January. At which point, we hope the MMA year starts with something better than it started this year, because this year, back in January, first major news story of 2023 was Dana White slapping his wife in public. And it was all downhill from there.
Well, the first movie that we saw of 2023 was Megan, and it was all downhill from there.
And I still don't understand.
Oh, wait, was it Megan or was it Plane was first?
I think we did Megan first because it technically released the year before.
I just know
That's
Megan was the
right.
first one I was on, so.
I
I think you're right about that. Yeah, and I remember fucking Megan didn't count for 2023 because it came out.
Released in
2022.
France. In France, it came out.
We
No.
beat that joke to death.
For not a joke, like because it released in France, like the end of December in 2022, all of its totals counted for the box office of 2022, not 2023. It was hilarious. And another reason for Mark to hate the French.
And then it was the Super Mario Brothers movie that somebody screwed up on IMDb and put that as a 2022 movie because we couldn't find it in the box office.
That caused me to cut the TikTok fix your shit. Fucking
that was amusing. So
all right, finish.
Yeah, I still don't get people who liked Megan. I've heard them defend it, and I just don't get it.
We didn't hate it when we reviewed it. We just had a year now to watch it.
The doll dances. And that's what people clued in on. It's like it's being compared to like Barbie and Oppenheimer, the Barbenheimer thing. People are weird. Just deal with it. Go.
Oh, the lollies. That's what it is, really. And if you don't know what that is, be careful because looking it up might get you on a list. All right. Yeah, that's it for me again. I got SmackDown on Friday, but nothing else. So Merry Christmas to everyone. Mark and I on Tuesday, and Alexis will talk about Jason Momoa doing stupid things. Maybe a movie, too.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining us here on Damn You Hollywood. For Robert and Alexis, I'm trying to get the show over with as fast as possible, and we're still out in 2:15. Be well, be safe. And by the way, Alexis, pay attention. Write this down. Be well. Be safe. There you go. Behave. It's not the other way around. Fuck you. Okay, got it. Good night, everybody.